So before I start, let's do a quick prayer. Grounding ourselves and allowing ourselves to not just breathe, but to allow ourselves to be breathed. To be breathed by that one power and one presence, that which we call God, source, the universe. Knowing that in this moment of being breathed, the wholeness, the perfection, and the completeness that God is right here in this breath. And if it is in this breath, then it is in this body as well. And so that power, that presence, that wholeness, that completeness, all that God is right here in this breath, in this body, in this building, in this life. Surrendering to this power and this presence, this love, this magnificence that is showing up as each and every one, I release this prayer knowing it is already done, it is already so, and so it is. How are you this morning? I don't believe you. That's like that right after Thanksgiving meal kind of, let's try this again. How are you this morning? See, that's what I'm talking about. That's what gratitude and joy is supposed to sound like. That's how you're supposed to sound all the time. So, if we may, I'd like to begin with an experiment. Is that okay with you? Okay, but I need everybody to participate. Okay, so pause for a moment and just imagine. Use our spiritual power of imagination. And imagine that you are meeting with a friend. That could be at Starbucks, could be at your house, doesn't matter where it is. But you're sitting down with a friend. And your friend says to you, what's on your mind? What comes to you when I say that? What's on your mind? And pause for a moment and think about that. Because it could be any number of things. It could be, I'm worried about the bills that are coming in. I'm worried about something I heard on the news, some political something, and I'm worried about that. That's what's on my mind. What's on my mind is I'm not sure if Giant is still going to have that turkey on sale when I want to get it, so I need to probably go right after we're done having coffee. That's what's on my mind. Like we have all these things that could be on our minds, right? But have we ever stopped to think that each of these things that is on our mind is because we have a different mind for each of them? Like, for example, parents in the room, raise your hand. Do you know you have a particular mind that is geared to being a parent that a non-parent doesn't have? Your mind is focused on what it means to raise a child and care for a child. And even to the degree that when you are in the grocery store and you don't have your kids with you, but you see somebody else's kids running around the store, the mom in you wants to kick in, or the dad in you wants to kick in and say, excuse me, young man, excuse me, young lady, where are your parents? Because that parent mind kicks in. Then there are people who, anybody in here, law enforcement. Okay, anybody in here, medical professional, nurse, doctor, you have a particular mind as well, that immediately your mind goes to, how do I triage? How do I take care? How do I care for? Each of us has a different mind. Teachers, musicians have a different mind. But there's only one mind, that mind being God's mind. But see, the thing is, we are so focused on our individual minds and stuff, there's that calisthenics. We focus on those little individual minds so much that we lose sight of the one true mind. We worry and we fear because we get so bogged down by this human mind that says, I am different from you. That pew is different from the pew behind it. The floor is different from the wall, from the ceiling, from the lights. But if we're going to say, because unity principle number 1 says,
there's only one presence and one power.
There's only one. Only one. And that means everything that we see and everything that we don't see. Everything that we hear and everything that we don't hear. Everything that we can touch and everything that is untouchable. All of it is this one power and this one presence. So there is absolutely nothing separate from your shoe, your jewelry, your hair, your hand, your heart, and God. There's only one. But how often do we really give in to that thought? How often do we really surrender? How often are we willing to loose the mind of separation. Or dare I say, how often are we willing to lose our minds? Lose them. Lose them the same way we lose our car keys. But just don't look for them. Just lay those minds down. The minds that want to fear, lay them down. The mind that wants to worry, because, and I know, I used to be addicted to worry. I used to. So I know that worry is a tangible thing that it's like, anybody in here ever see The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings, any of those? Okay, so Gollum, you know who Gollum is? Precious man. Sorry, just had to, But it's that, it's worry, my little worry. That, like, we go into this thing and we get obsessed by it, and it takes us over. But worry does absolutely nothing. I mean, how many times have we heard people say, so the worry about whatever it is, does it fix it, does it change it, does it do anything? No, it doesn't. So why worry about it? If you can change it, change it. If you can't, then why worry about it? So you do what is yours to do. So why not lay down that mind that wants to worry, that wants to fear, that wants to obsess, and wants to cause us to believe in the lack, the limitation, and the scarcity that our culture and society teach us. Because everything in the news, everything we learn in school, everything, unless we were raised by very enlightened parents and went to a school of the very enlightened teachers, and by enlightened I mean people who knew the truth of you, and they taught you based on that truth, that no one dared ever call you stupid or insufficient or inadequate, because they know that the allness of the universe resides right where you are. Because everything that we have was birthed out of somebody's mind, some creative power. And the exact same creative power that Einstein had, you have. The exact same creative power of J.K. Rowling, you have. The exact same creative power of Gandhi, you have. All of it. But we get lost in the maze of the mind. So years ago, I started studying martial arts, and I'm not sure how old I was, but I came across the samurai, right? Ooh, carrying a sword and walking around Japan, and yes. And yes, I fell in love with the whole swordplay kind of thing, but then I said, well, I got to learn, if I'm going to be a samurai, I have to learn the philosophy of being a samurai. And then I found that somewhere in there, samurai train them. Well, first of all, anybody in here know what the word samurai actually means? Okay, it means one who serves. Samurai, one who serves. That right there got me like, what? Huh. So then delve further, and I learned that, the samurai didn't just master the sword. The samurai, to be a true samurai, had to master the tea ceremony, flower arranging, poetry, music. They had to master several other things to truly be identified as a samurai. Because the idea was the person who can demonstrate mastery of any art reveals it in their entire life. So by mastering the sword, you are now master of the tea, master of the music, master of your life. And this thing of life with the samurai was, in order to gain my life, I must be willing to give it up. So the samurai lived every day embracing death. We don't like that word because it's an uncomfortable word. But dare I say, the only reason it's uncomfortable is because there's a mind that believes that that is real. Because if we knew that death was not what we were taught, death is not what we see, it is not that, then we would not fear it the way we do. We would not dread it the way we do. Yes, there are many things related to it that, yes, uncomfortable, yes, sad, yes, but it is not the end. But if our mind focuses on it as being the end, then yes, we're going to do our darndest to avoid it. But you can't avoid it any more than you can avoid taking that next breath. Because at some point, some point, you're going to have to let it go. You have to let it go. And at some point, we are going to surrender this as well. So, the samurai got into this condition of always embrace the change. Always embrace the change. Always embrace. And in order to do that, the samurai practiced this thing called Mushindo. The art of no mind, no-mindedness, surrendering to the flow. Anybody in here, who else plays a musical instrument or sings? Who in here rides a bike, does martial arts, some fitness form of yoga, something? Any artists, draw, paint, sculpt? And there are others, because people who cook, and I mean when you cook, I mean you like, and it's like Julia Child, like boom, and it's like magic. Raise your hand, because I know some of y'all are in here. Don't act. Those of you, when you are in your element, do you lose track of time? Yes. That you get into it and you start to do it, and it's 8 o'clock in the morning, and you're like, paint, draw, sculpt, dance, sing, you're doing whatever it is you do, and then all of a sudden you get up to go eat because you forgot to eat, and you get up to go eat, and it's midnight. And you're like, what just happened to the day? You were in the flow. You lost your mind. Your mind surrendered to the one mind called creation, called creativity, called life. Because when you are doing yoga, running, stuff, that's life expressing itself in movement. Life expressing itself in music. Life expressing itself in food. Life expressing itself in all of the many ways that life expresses itself as and in and through. And so, when we give in to it and we surrender to it, we lose track of all this other stuff. We forget that we're even there. It's no longer Ray is doing stuff. It's the music is doing Ray. The food, the meal is doing Ray. The elliptical is doing Ray. Like whatever it is, it's now one and the same. There is just that which is. Period. That's all. But we struggle and we resist. And yes, there are moments when we have to come out of the flow because you can't while driving. Well, you probably could. The average person can. But I would venture to, excuse me, young lady, what are you doing? Are you playing the flute while driving? Yes. Anyhow, so, I digress. There are going to be moments where we have to go into whatever our regular daily routines are, and that's fine. We have to remember, though, that even in the ordinary, there is the extraordinary. That in something as simple as walking the dog, that ordinary thing is extraordinary because it's God walking God, period. And hey God, where are we walking today? I'd like to walk to the park, which is also me. It's all God, but we get lost in the ordinary. So the thing is, and I've been asking people this a lot lately, if Walgreens, Walmart, CVS, Target, I don't care, anybody that sells vitamins or pills, if they came out tomorrow, Monday, with a new pill that would cure everything, financial woes, that's got it. Physical stuff, that's got it. Emotional stuff, that's got it. My car is broke, that's got it. The roof is leaking, that's got it. This thing fixes it all. For real, not like a, hello, buy this $29.99 and get free. Not that, I'm not talking about that. Only sold it, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about for real, this works. How many people do you think would be in line to get it tomorrow morning? The world, pretty much everybody, except those who are like, I don't believe it works. They're the only ones that aren't going to go, but I'm telling you now, it works. Everybody would be there. Now, what if I said, how much do you think people would be willing to pay for it? people would be willing to find a way to pay whatever it is. And see, the funny thing is, this is that pill. New thought is that pill. New thought helps us to become holy. And holy, going back to the root of what holy means, it means whole. When we realize that we are holy, we are already whole. The only thing that makes us not feel and experience being whole is that thing in our mind that says, do you really think that you are that good? Do you remember what you did when you were 8? Because I remember. In fact, I've got photos. Because there's something in our mind that brings to us all of the things that it uses in court to say, well, Your Honor and members of the jury, let me show you why this person is not worthy of love, affection, caring, friendship. This is why they're not worthy. Because they lied. Because they cheated. Because look at how much they weigh. Look at their life. Look. They're not worthy. And we believe it. We believe the lie instead of saying, just because I made an error. How many of us ever went to school where we learned how to do 2 + 2 = whatever it equals? I would venture to say the majority of us in this room at some point learned math. Yeah, okay. In the process of learning how to add or subtract or multiply, or in my case, fractions, just being honest, we made a mistake. And we multiplicated something wrong, and we subtracticated something wrong, and we added something, we did something wrong. And Mom, I told the teacher 2 + 2 = 12, but the teacher called me stupid. And then we take that label, I can't do math, I can't balance a checkbook, I'm no good at remembering names, I can't do. No one wants me, no one loves me, I'm unlovable, I'm unworthy, just leave me alone. And we buy into it and we believe it. Why? When do we get to the point where we are willing to be like Gandhi? Willing to say, you know what, I'm willing to give up the amazing life I could have as a lawyer, wealthy and all, to change into this garb, sandals and a stick, and help free a people. When do we get to the point where we're like Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, who says, I'm fine in the pulpit, but however, I need to go out and do this, and I know that at some point, someone's going to want to kill me. I know it, but I'm going to do it anyway. When do we become like Mother Teresa, who says, they're the untouchables, but I have to go. I have to be the one. And even with the struggles of what we're questions of faith, etc., she still went. When do we, Jane Goodall, the gorillas, but I have to be the one because they have no voice. When do we step out in our own lives? And I'm not saying you have to go start taking signs, and I'm not saying that. I'm saying, but when do we, in our own lives, stand up and say enough is enough? When do we stand up in our own lives and say, I am worthy of everything? And by everything I mean, it says in Scripture, it is God's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. To give you the kingdom. And the thing is, the kingdom is already ours. But if we are running around as if, we are the pauper who doesn't know that they are the king, we've forgotten who and what we really are. But this is a reminder. Every time you walk into this sacred space, it is a reminder. Tap, tap, light bulb on. Tap, tap, tap. You're God. Tap, tap, tap. You are the universe. You are no different from that which holds Jupiter in orbit. You are no different than that which causes the rose to bloom. You are no different. The only place we are different is in that thing we call a mind. But when we meditate, when we go into the zone, when we go into whatever that is, when we are in the flow, then we are able to do the exact same thing Yeshua did. I and the Father are one. I and that God principle are one. I and that one mind, that infinite power and presence, there's only one. And I'm claiming it right now. Because see, the moment we step forward and say, so are you a professional musician? Yes. Something in our psyche changes. When someone says, oh, the thing you cooked last week for the potluck, oh my goodness, that was delicious. And we accept it. Yes, it was. Rather than what we normally do. Oh, that old it's just... And we diss these blessings because they feel too good to accept. But I challenge you, I invite you to accept them. Because all that is God looking at itself, recognizing how beautiful it is on this other face, in the mirror that it sees as each and every one of us. And it is paying itself a compliment as you. So take it. You are already good. Not good enough. You are already good. Because it is God the good, not God the good enough, omnipotent. God the good, omnipotent. And you are what it is, so you are already good. Every error, every mistake, all taken into account, mean nothing when it comes to balancing it against that the very essence of all that you are, right here, right now, is good. And not only just that you're good, but you're omnipotent. And I know you'll be like, but there's a whole bunch of stuff I can't do, Greg. But imagine what you could do if you believed in yourself the way God believes in itself. Imagine what you could do if whatever that one thing is that you say, there's this one thing that I would love to do. A book, a workshop, a class, a travel to Tibet, something that I want to do. But there's an addiction I want to let go of. There's a relationship I want to be free of. There's a something, but I feel that I can't do it. But what if you can? And what if it begins with starting to believe, before you even move a step, before you click I bought the ticket, before it simply change your mind to say, I can. That's all. J.K. Rowling didn't know she could be a multi-billionaire from a story about a little boy wizard. And as many times as she was told no, she still said, I can. How many times did Oprah get told no? I can. How many times did Martin Luther King Jr. get told, I can. Gandhi, I can. It's all over. Everything that we are is pure potential, pure possibility. Everything that you could ever want to be, do, or have. Because if it's showing up in your mind, that's God wanting to birth it in you and through you and as you. Because you're not going to have an idea that you can do absolutely nothing about. And yes, the idea may be, you know the story of how Superman came into being? No? Oh, see, I got to give y'all homework now. Okay, let's just put it this way. Two young men had this idea. They were both nerds in school. They both got picked on. They became friends. One was an artist. One was a literary, like he wrote stuff, science fiction, like he wrote all the time. And they came together and they started writing science fiction stuff. And then at some point they had this idea of creating this Superman. And they were like, cool. And they drew and they wrote and they drew and they wrote for years and years and years and years and years. And then eventually they had the opportunity to go to DC and to DC Comics and sell it to them. Now there's a whole bunch of other stuff to the story, like DC Comics stole the idea and there's a bunch of stuff, but eventually they got the rights back. But the idea is, one did the writing. He couldn't do the drawing. The other could do the drawing, couldn't do the writing. So if an idea shows up, then the way to manifest the idea has to also show up. Which means the right people at the right time, in the right places, in the right ways, by divine order, have to show up. If it's yours to do, it must. By the laws of spirit, it must show up. But we have to be willing to lose our minds. To lose the minds of impossible. To lose the mind that says can't. To lose the mind that says I'm not smart enough, not talented enough, not beautiful enough, not thin enough, not tall enough, not whatever enough. Lose that mind. Like put it down at the mall and run from it. and put it down at a mall in another country and run from it. Leave it there. Because the moment we step forward with even the smallest mustard seed size faith, something in us breaks forth and says, yes. Yes, I can. Yes, I'm worthy. Yes, I'm good enough. Because yes, I'm good. And yes, I'm forever. There is no end to this thing called you. When this body is done, you're not. So lose the mind that says it is. Gandhi, it says there's a story that Gandhi said, at some point he knew he was probably going to be assassinated, and he said, the only thing I want to be able to do is say the name of God. I want the name of God, Rama, to be what's uttered off of my lips if I'm killed. Which is why I hate the Ben Kingsley version of, because Gandhi gets shot and the actor says, oh God. Like, oh God. Not, oh God. There's a difference in that inflection. Are we willing to wake up in the morning and say, oh God? To look in the mirror and see, oh God, looking through the eye behind the eye, seeing itself and say, oh God. To put on clothes and brush teeth and brush hair for those who still have. And say, oh God. To lose the mind that says, oh God. And surrender it and take in, oh, how great this life is. Oh, how great this life is. Oh, how great this life, one life showing up in me, through me, with me, and as me. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is great, grand, and magnificent, and that life is my life now. Only one life. And it's magnificent. Let's meditate. Simply allowing ourselves to breathe. To allow all that God is to come to the forefront of that one mind that we are. To shake off the ideas, the consciousness of lack and limitation. The consciousness that says, I can't. Simply breathe, knowing that the next breath is already there. There is nothing you needed to do, nowhere you needed to go, nowhere you needed to search for. You simply surrender to the breath, and it is there. So in this moment of surrendering to this breath, this divine ruach, the divine breath of God, the divine inspiration of God is in this breath. For this breath is God breathing itself as each and every one of us. And so surrendering in this breath, there must also be the magnificence that God is in this breath, in this body that is breathing this breath, in this mind that is moving the body that is breathing this breath. There's only one. And knowing that we are not simply magnificent because of this, but that we are magnificence itself given flesh. Because God is not somewhere out there. God is not just with us. This breath is not just the breath of God. The breath is God. This body is God. If God is all there is, then the very molecules and atoms, the very structure that creates flesh and bone comes from spirit. Spirit creates form. Form became body. And yet it is all God. And so knowing that at any moment we can surrender to this breath and to this knowing, first thing in the morning, in the middle of the day, right before bed, simply breathing, knowing, declaring and affirming, oh God, right here, right now, oh God. Knowing that when we are thanking God, it is God thanking itself. Oh God. Laying down the minds that create lack and limitation. Oh God. Focusing on the one mind, the true mind. And we breathe. Surrendering and breathing.